My name's Stephen Schmitz. I'm chair to the Countywide Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. And we can start with introductions. Dana, how would you like to do this? Do you just want to read folks' names?
I would be happy to read off the names if that works for you, Stephen.
Sure.
Great. All right, we have Drew Nichols with SCTA. I'm Dana Teray with SCTA. We have Roberta Delgado. Do you want to state your affiliation?
I am a member of a group that's calling itself Bike Sebastopol, and I'm also a Sonoma County biker chick.
Great, well, welcome. We have Larry Zimmer with the City of Healdsburg. Our chair, Stephen Schmitz with Sonoma County Transit. We have Ken Eichstadt with City of Petaluma, Emily Betts with SMART, Wendy Adkins, City of Sonoma, Chris Barney, SCTA, Ben Kagiyama, City of Healdsburg, Eris Weaver, SCBC, Tanya Nareth, RCPA, Mona Ibrahim, Town of Windsor, David Ripperda, SCTA, Zeno Switnick, City of Sebastopol, and Emily Chartine. Would you like to state your affiliation?
Hi, yes, I'm Emily. I am also with the Sonoma County Bicycle Coalition. I work with Eris.
Oh, great. Welcome. And Tor Allen with Bike Sebastopol. And Nancy Adams with City of Santa Rosa.
Okay. Thanks, Dana. Move on to the approval of the meeting notes from July 26th. And I took a look at them and they looked pretty good to me. So I'm happy to make a motion to approve the minutes from July 26th.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any objections? Seeing none, minutes are approved, or meeting notes are approved. And then item number 3, public comment from anyone at the meeting for anything that's not already on the agenda.
Yeah, I had a question.
Use the raise hand feature that I can identify who's wanting to say anything. Okay, Zeno.
Yeah, I love to go from Sebastopol to Forestville, and I noticed there is some road work being done on Occidental Road that for some reason stopped being worked on, and there's a lot of gravel collecting on the bike side of the road. And I noticed similar things on like Grayton Road. So I wonder whether there is some kind of maintenance done with that gravel in different areas where there's lots of bikes. And also, when will the road be completed on Occidental Road? These are kind of concerns I have. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks for those comments. I will be back in touch with you about that, Zeno. Any other hands raised for public comments? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands raised. So we'll move on to item 4, notice of elections of officers.
All right, so this is just to notify the committee that at our first meeting of 2023, which will be on January 24th, we will have election of officers for the chair and the vice chair of this committee. Stephen Schmitz has been doing a great job this year and last year as well. He did let me know that he would like to pass the torch next year. So think about if you would like to take that role on. Otherwise, I would be happy to call out folks that jurisdictions that haven't served as chair for a while. So that will be an item on the agenda for the January 24th meeting.
Hey, Dana, this is Nancy. I'd love to take it on for you, Steve, but I have another commitment.
I understand that. Yeah. Congratulations, Nancy.
Thanks a lot.
Great timing, Nancy.
For all of you that don't know, Nancy's retiring.
No, we don't use that word.
Oh, I'm sorry. What word would you use, Nancy?
Free agent.
Free agent. Okay, got it.
Yeah. Larry's right behind me, aren't you, Larry?
No, I got some time to go, but I know someone else on the screen who is.
I'll use the term retirement. End of December.
All right. Well, congratulations to you too, Ben.
Thanks.
Any other retirement announcements to make? Oh, Wendy, are you retiring? No?
I think that was a congratulations.
Oh, that's a
No, I was just
congratulations.
clapping for Ben.
I thought that was a raised hand. Sorry. Okay, moving on. On to item number 5, Class 1 pathway bollards.
Thank you, Stephen. Dana had asked that I give a presentation that I had given to my city council last night. For those who have heard this before, my apologies. I will try to fly through it as quickly as possible, but please interrupt if there's anything that you would like to discuss. And if people would prefer not to see the PowerPoint, speak now and we can just have a discussion as well. All right. Sharing screen. You guys all see that?
Looks good, Larry.
All right. So this was presented last night. As we all know, the death that occurred in West County. And so my city council had requested that we take a look at it and get a presentation, and this is what we brought them. So I don't need to explain it in this group, but some people don't know the term bollard. So I took a minute to explain what it was and that this is kind of a standard setup, which we all use throughout the county and throughout most of the state and elsewhere. Explain the purpose of the bollard. Obviously, besides the restricting motor vehicles, it's also notifying cyclists and pedestrians that they're coming up on cross traffic. And they are forcing cyclists to slow down before entering traffic. Talked a little bit about the reasons why drivers might enter a path. The big thing is we're always looking to see that it's not confusing a path with a driveway or a roadway, which can happen and causes quite a bit of problem. Otherwise, you just have drivers who aren't thinking clearly or doing whatever they're doing, particularly in the city of Healdsburg on a Friday evening. And then the last few are different because they're intentional. And there are all kinds of reasons why someone may intentionally use a bike path with drive their vehicle on a bike path. Then I just kind of walk through all of the different locations. You know, here was trying to give a driver's view. Clearly, someone's not going to mistake this. But with the ped ramp there, you can see that it's pretty easy to access the path if someone wanted to get on there. And you know, it's the kind of the standard 3 bollards there as well. What I was suggesting to council is that we keep the center one so it prevents any of the inadvertent or mistaken entries. And it also provides some type of notification for cyclists that they're entering a traffic way. I had suggested leaving these bollards, and this is the one deviation from the recommendation that council had. This location, as you can see, it's a little narrower with the bridge railing, and you can see the relatively severe curvature. So people coming at full speed, not expecting a road, find this obstacle, and council had recommended we remove these, which we're going to do. The problem here obviously is the loading of the bridge and potentially damaging the bridge if there is a vehicle up there. Particularly because just off of the screen, there's a driveway, which is a perfect lead to this. But we're going to address this most likely with signage, potentially putting some bollards at the driveway, but yet to be determined. This is part of our new path that just went in, pointing out the stop signs and stop bars, which we're proposing to do everywhere. We don't have them at many locations right now. The weird striping here wasn't part of the original design, but we found that maintenance vehicles couldn't get on there adequately, so we paved out that extra bit to your right. And again, we would remove 3 of the 4 bollards, leaving the center line bollard. Just talking again about the view from a driver's standpoint, we have bollards that are blocking from a very busy parking lot at Big John's Market. We would leave these in. They are not in the path of travel of the Foster Creek pathway. This was to show the many points where people can access the path, and that even if you leave bollards in everywhere, there's still ways for people to get on the path if they're willing to drive over landscaping or curbs and such. This is an example of something a little trickier. If we took out the 3 bollards on the pathway, it allows access to an area where we occasionally allow parking, but we don't want to allow parking all of the time. The 3 bollards on the left were to prevent the people from accessing the parking without our permission. So in this case, we're keeping the 3 on the left, taking out the 2 outside ones, and again, leaving the center bollard. The same would go for here. This is a different situation, much wider path. We're leaving all of these in. This is not the Foster Creek path, but it's access to a local walkway. I went through the highway design manual standards. You know, as we all think on this call know, that the direction now is that a post is an obstacle and it should be more of a last resort. We walk through the steps of starting with signage, designing a path that forces cyclists to slow down and make sure vehicles are aware that it's not accessible, and then assess the risk of vehicle entry versus the risk of fixed objects in the pathway. And one of the things I told my council is that while we haven't had a lot of problems with vehicles on path, it's because we do have bollards. In the couple of locations, very new pathway sections that we've built that do not have bollards, we have had vehicles on them. And if you talk to anyone along the Joe Rodota Trail, you know what problems could ensue if there were free access everywhere. I went through just briefly the highway design manual requirements and the MUTCD. I apologize for the lack of the C in my MUTCD. And so that was my recommendation, is to leave the center bollard, adding the diamond painting per MUTCD, adding center line painting 40 feet back and then to the sidewalk. We talked a little bit about flexible bollards. I wasn't initially recommending the flexible bollards, but was providing it as an alternate. In most cases, they're not, you know, the 2 bigger ones that you see here are not going to stop a cyclist who hits a handlebar or a pedal on it from a fall. They still would fall, but obviously the impact of a body on a bollard would be a little different. The lower one is from Davis, and it's just the floppy. The bigger concern with that is it's not removable. So maintenance vehicles will have to drive over it, and it's not really preventing any kind of access, but it does give that warning. So it is something that we may be considering, but council ultimately didn't go with this alternative recommendation. We talked about no bollards and, you know, the problems with sight distance. And if you have a cyclist, particularly now with a lot of e-bikes in town, someone going 15 miles an hour on the path who doesn't stop, it can, could be potentially pretty dangerous. So hoping that cyclists in these cases are actually adhering to the rules. I know a lot of us don't necessarily stop when we're on our bikes. Talked about the striping, and I did not recommend putting in edge or centerline striping other than what we talked about at the intersections, just strictly because it's a maintenance cost that we don't really have the money or staffing for. And then talked about some of the potential or the other things that other communities are doing with the humps, the bumps, the gates that I know many places in the county are still in existence and will continue to be in existence because they really need to keep vehicles out of these paths. And then some of the design things that you can do, but again, the problem there is you can't get maintenance vehicles on if you narrow the path too much. I talked a little bit about the cost here. We're pulling out 20 some bollards, but we're taking out the bases because they all have collars which protrude. And the concern is if we just grind them down, we're not going to have a nice even surface. And if we're doing this in the name of safety, we need to do it right. So we would be pulling them out, repaving. And so the cost for the additional signs, the striping and everything is ballparked around $55,000. I provided them, you know, a little bit more numbers and the additional cost of the flexible bollards, which obviously would be more expensive and require most likely removing the bases of the other ones. And council ultimately approved the recommendation with the exception of the couple at the bridge I showed you first. And they said, move forward as quickly as you can, which will probably be a late spring, early summer construction. And that was it. Hopefully that was fast enough.
Very good, thanks. So Ken, you have your hand raised there. Go ahead.
I do.
Thought he was
Chair.
clapping.
Well, no, it was very good. Thank you for doing that presentation and sending it out to all of us to reuse. That was a joke. So the removal, you don't think you could run an edge grinder and then use some concrete low strength material and fill the void? You think you really have to dig those all out? Because I was going to try a pilot run and just, you know, take the insertion tube and just go with an edge grinder, and it should cut that off and you can flush it off, and then you just fill it up with some Clism, some concrete low strength material, and call it good. But
yeah, we have done that in many places, and it does work. It should be fine. I don't think it's a major issue, but if we're really taking them out, you know, leaving that scar on the path, if you will, if we were doing it in one or two locations, if we were doing it as a test, I would do the exact same thing.
all right.
And part of it was I wanted council to take it seriously and not just, hey, pull them out. Oh, we want them back in. Because putting them back in after you ground that collar down would be the same amount of work. And
Yeah.
so it was part of what I was presenting to council too, that they understood that this isn't going to be a go back and forth option.
Right. Yeah. No, I was actually trying to see if there was some way to actually preserve that cavity, put some sort of a cap on it so that if you ever did want to go back there, you wouldn't lose that, but I couldn't come up with any idea. So anyway, thank you very much. It's really good presentation. Good effort. So
Happy to, thank you. And I'm willing to share it too. I can send it to you, Ken.
yes, please.
It's too big to email, but I can put it in PDF form.
Okay, Nancy.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Larry. Appreciate that. Hey, so I know you don't, I guess the creek paths are, I guess they're not water agency, so you don't have to go through that. But I mean, most of the creeks in Santa Rosa, we have to go through the water agency. So I don't really know, if we decide to do something like that, I guess reaching out to the water agency we would have to do that. It's just really more of a comment. And I don't know what the other cities are like in terms of, their access and who has the jurisdictional rights along their creeks. But for us, we would need to reach out just to talk with the agency before we did anything, right? So just a comment.
Yeah, it's a little different for us than a lot of your paths, Nancy, because this is right through town. It's way easier for our police department to enforce than other places in the county.
Eris, you're up next.
Okay, yeah, thanks. So as Larry pointed out, the MUTCD does recommend that hard barriers like bollards be the method of last resort rather than first resort, which many of our jurisdictions have used over time. So I appreciate all the jurisdictions that are looking at removing some of those. Immediately after Rob Reyes's death on the West County Trail, my inbox was just inundated with stories from cyclists of incidents with the bollards, in a way that almost surprised me, the magnitude of how many people have been seriously injured, other deaths around the state from this. And I think what I realized was, for me, because I've certainly been on rides where someone has either smacked one or almost narrowly missed it or went down because they were trying to avoid it, that I had always sort of, I think, put it in that category of just crap we have to deal with as cyclists, right? Like glass and gravel in the bike path and, all the other things that we put up with, and not thought about it as being something fixable or changeable. The challenge, I think, is we don't have data, right? We don't have data about, okay, how many people have incidences, crashes, collisions, injuries from the bollards? Because where would you collect it, right? If somebody calls and complains to the city, well, where are you going to put it? It's not like, a traffic collision that goes into Switters. There's not a place to collect that data. And similarly, how frequent is an issue of a vehicle driving onto a bike path? We don't know, because again, that is not tracked. I can say that for 40 years, I've been riding on Rohnert Park's paths, most of which don't have bollards, and I've not seen or heard of any major problems with vehicles. And I'm sure Edie can respond if I'm in the wrong about that, but I'm not going to go so far as to say let's get rid of every single bollard or barrier everywhere. I think the bollards alongside by Big John's there absolutely should be there. I'm glad there's a gate at the Germanota Trail where it intersects with Stony Point. But there are plenty of other ways to keep the cars off. Even in Healdsburg, I was riding there a week or two ago, and right off the roundabout going on to the Voss Creek Trail going south, there's no bollards, but it's a narrow curb cut with the yellow ADA pad on it. So there's no reason that a vehicle would assume it's somewhere they could go, nor could they, because the curb cut is narrower enough. So I'm really hoping that all the jurisdictions are looking at not just bollards everywhere or bollards nowhere, but what treatments make sense at what locations. And some locations are likely more have a higher likelihood of vehicular encroachment, and some probably have relatively none, and fit the treatment to the specific location. And I think I'll stop there. Thanks.
Okay. Zeno.
I'd like to make a comment about service vehicles. Maybe it's time to also rethink that, because service vehicles are a big obstacle in bike lanes. Right, it often happens that you have to kind of step off your bike in order to get by the service vehicle on the county trail. So maybe it's time to rethink that whole idea of why should a car be used to get there? And I'm not saying all cases are unnecessary, but maybe it's time for like a cargo bike approach or a tricycle to kind of minimize and get bike associated service on bike lanes. Thanks.
Okay. So this item was just meant for general discussion, Dana?
Yeah, that's correct. Just to kind of continue the conversation and share ideas.
Any other jurisdictions out there that have pondered bollard issues that want to chime in? We talked about it at our most recent Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee for the county. And Ken Tam did a pretty nice presentation. And there have been no decisions made at this point, but they have restriped and painted some bollards. And I think that's their plan, is to continue that effort.
Hey, so Stephen, this is Nancy. So I just came from the path there on Santa Rosa Creek from Fulton to Stony Point. And at the entrance into Stony Point, they now they have those swing gates, right? So and at Fulton, they actually removed the bollards because there were bollards there for a while, but I don't know if other jurisdictions are seeing a little bit of shifts, but I noticed that just recently. So anyway, just FYI.
Thanks. Unfortunately, we don't have anybody from Sonoma County Regional Parks here, and so I don't know what has happened. Edie, you've got your hand.
We did a check of where our bollards are, and the majority of the ones that exist, we think are Sonoma County Water Agency, or whatever they're called now, Sonoma Water. So I'm wondering if there are any other jurisdictions out there who will find that their bollards are water agency related. I'd like to have a side conversation to see, or maybe you've already talked to them about how willing they are to change things up on their bollards or gates or whatever you've got. So we haven't reached out to them yet, at least I haven't. It might be our engineer might have already, but yeah, I'm just kind of wondering if anyone that has the story on water agency bollards or gates or such things. And if not, let's talk about later. Maybe you'll find something out.
Yeah, this is Nancy. I don't know. I know Rob and I talked about it, and we haven't reached out to them. I think we're just in a listening mode to see, how it went with Larry and his team up there. But yeah, I think if we're going to start thinking about this, and we do need to loop in, for us, we do need to loop in the water agency, because it's their jurisdictional area. So, but I think that would be a good thing to chat through, particularly if there seems to be an interest in, assessing cities besides Healdsburg.
Eris.
Thanks. I just remembered one last thing that I wanted to say that I didn't. So even in the places where bollards are going to remain, as Larry pointed out, show the photo of how to stripe them. That's in the MUTCD so that they are visible from a distance. One of the things, ever since this whole thing happened, I am like hyper aware of bollards and poles and signs everywhere that I ride. And every now and then I come across some in different jurisdictions that either the case of the one that Mr. Reyes ran into, all of the paint had been worn off. It looked like maybe from previous, collisions or whatever. And there was a lot of other overhanging vegetation and other things that made it, added to the lack of visibility there. There's some in Katati that are made of wood that I'm not sure would be visible at night. There's one that I came across that probably is water agency that looks like it was originally painted blue, but the paint's all worn off again. And so if they're going to be there, they need to be, painted yellow and have the reflective stripe and all of that other stuff so that they are visible. The one that I saw on the water agency path, I was riding home at night. And if it was not for the fact that my bike's lit up like a Christmas tree with a floodlight for a headlight, I might have run into it. So that was just the other thing I wanted to make sure that was mentioned, that any bollards that you do have, if you're going to leave them, make sure that they're appropriately painted.
Well, I think, Eris, I'll just follow up on that. I think to Edie's comment, that would be what, and what you'd like to see too is some consistent designs for everyone to incorporate. So, but that's going to be, a conversation with the water agency. But yeah, I think having some consistency throughout the county would be beneficial.
Yeah. I put the link in the chat to that section of the MUTCD that describes how the things should be painted, if anybody wants to see that.
Okay. Good discussion. Anybody else want to chime in? Now's your chance. Not seeing any hands raised. Thanks again, Larry, for bringing that presentation to the committee. That was very, very well done, very helpful.
Thanks, Stephen. You're welcome anytime. And just to add on to Ben's retirement news, I will likely be attending these meetings until we get his replacement.
We'll look forward to that. Thanks, Larry. Okay, I think then we can move on to item 5, Countywide Active Transportation Plan.
All right, thank you. So this is just an update on the status of the Countywide Active Transportation Plan. We had requested updates to existing facilities just in preparation for the work on the Countywide Active Transportation Plan and the consultant work. So we received updates from most jurisdictions. We're still waiting for updates from Petaluma and Roanoke Park. And I know Petaluma's timing has to do with completion of their local master plan as well. So we did include a link in the staff report, which I'm just going to throw up in the chat as well, to the live web map. So if all of you who did submit updates to those existing facilities, if you could check the map and make sure that your changes that you submitted are captured correctly, that would be great. And yeah, just let us know if anything looks like it needs editing there. So we are working on procurement for the countywide active transportation plan, and expect to have a firm under contract in the spring. We're a little bit further behind on the procurement than we anticipated, just with staffing, but we are getting there, and do expect to have someone on board in this spring. So in the meantime, we're just making sure we have our existing facilities ready to go, and some other kind of existing conditions, elements of the plan teed up. If anybody has any questions on either the existing facilities map or on the countywide active transportation plan, I'd be happy to talk about them. But this will be a standing item on the CBPAC agenda moving forward until the plan is complete, which is we're plan on completing it by February 2025.
Okay, thanks, Dana. Any questions for Dana? Encino?
Yeah, I wonder whether somebody can briefly explain the role of the plan in improving infrastructure in the county. Like, how does it fit in the things like in Sebastopol? I'm on the Climate Commission, the Transportation Subgroup. And so is this like a requirement to be in this plan for applications for funding, or any other kind of information that places the plan in the bigger picture?
Yeah, so I can respond to that. So we currently have a countywide bicycle and pedestrian master plan, and each of the local jurisdiction bicycle and pedestrian plans are connected to that plan by reference. And those projects are included in the project list for the countywide plan. This will be the same setup for this update. And through this process, we will be updating a number of the jurisdiction level plans as well. And that includes for the city of Sebastopol. This is a way to identify the bicycle and pedestrian facilities that should be developed, and to engage with the public and allow input to identify those projects. The project list is used in a number of ways. There are certain funding programs that do require a project to be in an adopted countywide plan or local plan. And it also, the entire project list is included by reference in our comprehensive transportation plan for Sonoma County, and is also included in a programmatic level with the regional transportation plan. And being included in that regional transportation plan is required for certain funding. So to answer your question about requirements, there are a number of mechanisms in which funding is required to have plans or a project in a active transportation plan.
Yeah, so can there certain things are not in the plan that seem from a biking point of view part of the infrastructure? So like bike parking, traffic lights that are triggered by bikes entering getting close to the traffic lights. So there are certain things that are important for bike movement that I haven't seen in the plan, and I wonder whether there's possibility to add more of these infrastructure innovations to the plan.
I definitely think that those are things that can be considered for this update. And so, yeah, it would be great to hear about those elements that, even if they're not a bike lane or a pathway, these other innovations, it would be great to hear about those ideas during the development of the plan. And can certainly be, I mean, those type of things being included as projects.
Okay, John.
Question for you real quick. I didn't work on the bike and pedestrian stuff. I was just wondering, on behalf of the city of Sebastopol, did Carrie or Mario submit the application and updates for these, or was it somebody else? Or just so I can familiarize myself a little bit more with the plan and whatnot.
Yeah, so for the updates, the updated existing conditions, I believe that Mario submitted those. I could double check for you and get back to you. But yeah, I believe it was Mario.
Yeah, because there was just a couple questions that I've had from a couple of folks that just wanted an update for this, and I want to be able to direct them to the correct person and also inform myself a little bit more. So.
Okay. Any other questions regarding the countywide active transportation plan? Not seeing any hands raised. And I think we can move on to item 7, update on regional funding. Dana?
All right, so the first item under regional funding is the Transportation Development Act, Article 3, and Transportation Fund for Clean Air quarterly report. So this is a report of active projects as of the end of the first quarter of fiscal year 2023. And the first page there, which is page 8 of the PDF of the agenda, is the Transportation Development Act Article 3 projects. So yeah, I'll just mention that there are 2 projects on there that we are working on trying to reprogram. They're both related to the Crane Creek, the trail to Crane Creek Regional Park. So we are working on that. And I see your note in the chat, thank you. And we should have an update on those in the next quarterly report. And then the second page is the Transportation Fund for Clean Air projects. Yeah, for this group, I think that everything's pretty straightforward, but let me know if you have any questions about any of the projects listed there.
Hey, Dana. So
Yeah.
this here. So were you able to reach out to MTC on our Santa Rosa Avenue project? And we don't have to talk about that, if we need to talk about it offline, but just curious if you have.
I have reached out, and I reached out at the same time about the Santa Rosa Avenue project, as well as the 2 trail to Crane Creek projects. I haven't heard back, so I will follow up with MTC after this meeting to try to get some information about this project.
Okay, great, thanks.
And Ben, you have a question?
Yeah, so Dana, the Healdsburg project's been completed, the Front Street Sidewalk gap closure project, and that's been invoiced now to MTC.
Thank you, Ben. And yeah, I should have mentioned that the timing with this meeting, this report is actually a little bit late, so are a little bit outdated. So we have received that information, and that project will not show up on the next quarterly report, but thank you.
Oh, good. Thanks.
Okay. Any more questions or comments? Not seeing any hands, so let's move on to item 8. Roundtable updates.
Actually, if we could, Mr. Chair, just go on to 7.2 and 7.3.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, sure.
That's right. We just covered the first one under that. So 7.2 is the active transportation program cycle 6. We included in your agenda packet the staff recommendations for the statewide and small urban and rural components of the program. I'm sure all of you who applied have seen this already. Unfortunately, there were not any recommendations for any of the projects submitted from Sonoma County in the statewide program. But we are hoping that some of those get funded, or all of them get funded through the regional program, which we're expecting to hear recommendations from, I believe, the next month. So more on that soon, and hopefully some of those projects will get funded.
Hey, Data, do you know the backstory? So Nancy again, do you know the backstory? It reminded me, I need to check in on the quick build. Were any of those funded? And there's like only 12 in the state. And I don't understand that. Do you know, I was going to ask Carl if he knew anything about it.
That's a good question, Nancy. I have not heard anything about the quick build projects. I don't know if anyone else, any of David or anyone has heard about the quick build projects on the statewide, for the statewide program.
Yeah, my only knowledge of it is what they had in the staff recommendations, and it seemed like they thought that the projects that were submitted weren't good enough for that set aside of funding, so they decided not to fund any of them.
Yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, I'd like to kind of do a deeper dive. Appreciate that, David, but it seems I don't get it, right? People are asking me. One of our bike board members was asking me, and so I'll do some digging kind of on my own separately, just to see if I can get a little more understanding on what they were looking for, right? I'm not quite sure. So anyway, so thanks, David. I appreciate that.
Stephen, you're on mute.
Thanks. Tor Allen.
Yeah, hey, so can you comment anything about the Sebastopol specific project that include Regal Road, Mill Station, and Bodega Avenue? It doesn't look like it got a very good score on this statewide scorecard, but you just mentioned something about regional funding, and maybe you could elaborate on its chances for that, and what's the timeline for deciding funding through that mechanism.
Yeah, so the regional program, there's a set aside for the region to fund projects, and there's a process for scoring that it's actually, a different team will be using the same scoring criteria plus some additional criteria that the region developed to award projects in the Bay Area. So the score could vary with that new review, but it's likely to be somewhere, kind of in the ballpark. And Yeah, I'm not sure if it would rise high enough to be awarded, but that's yet to be seen. I believe that MTC, who's the regional agency that will be awarding that regional funding, is going to be announcing the recommendations in January.
A follow-up question would be, do you anticipate a cycle beyond this current cycle with MTC? And the reason I ask is that, if we're going to score better, we're trying to prepare and figure out where we can do better on this and other projects.
So this next round with the regional cycle will be all for the ATP cycle 6. There will be another cycle of ATP. It's on a 2-year cycle. So there will be another chance to, if Sebastopol wanted to resubmit the application if it were not awarded. Any applicants are also able to contact the California Transportation Commission and ask for input on their project application and why it scored the way it did, so they can request a consultation. And I believe the same goes for the regional program, that you can follow up and ask for feedback on your application.
Yeah. Larry?
Yeah, just weighing in on that. We went through that same process. We met both with CTC and with Carl at MTC, went over our application, looked at ways we could increase points. It was pretty useful, and both parties were extremely helpful and happy to do it. So I recommend it. Just don't outscore us.
Okay, Dana, are we moving on to 7.3?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
So 7.3 is the Safe Streets for All grant program. And SCTA has been talking about getting some ideas for a potential regional application. So I will turn it over to Chris Barney to talk a little more about that.
Provide a little bit of information about the program. All program is a federal program that was established by the bipartisan infrastructure law.
Hey, Dana, Chris keeps cutting out.
Yeah, Chris, you're cutting in and out. Do you have a headset to put on?
He's totally gone now, Steve. That was.
Maybe he's getting ready to log back in. Okay. Well.
I can talk a little bit, or here he is back.
There we go.
Sound at all?
We can.
Right. I've been dealing with Zoom issues. I apologize. But yeah, the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant programs, a federal grant program that was established as part of the bipartisan infrastructure law to reduce and eliminate. There are actually 5 rounds of funding. It's really focused on establishing Vision Zero action plan, projects and policies, and So there are two
Hey,
pieces
Chris.
of that.
You're cutting in and out
Hey, Chris.
again.
But no,
Yeah. You want to try calling in? Maybe, Chris?
All right, I switched microphones. Is that better?
We'll find out. Go
Okay.
ahead.
I'm going to turn off my video too, just kind of in case it's a bandwidth issue. So, yeah, apologize for that. So there are two pieces to this. There are supplemental planning activities and actual implementation activities. So on the supplemental planning side, that includes things like additional analysis, building on analysis that was put together as part of the Vision Zero action plans, extended data collection, testing concepts and projects in the action plan before implementing them, testing feasibility of different strategies and projects, doing additional stakeholder engagement, doing equity assessment, working on progress reporting. So that's one thing that we did work on as part of the Vision Zero action plan drafting, is to come up with ways of reporting on progress on addressing Vision Zero and improving safety, and then doing additional complementary planning, like preparing speed management plans, looking at accessibility and transition plans, and then lighting management plans. So all of these sorts of activities are kind of included on the supplemental planning side of things. And then on the implementation side, it includes capital projects, but also things like additional data collection, implementing innovative technologies, evaluating intersections, data collection and integration, education campaigns, marketing, things like that. So there's a broad array of different types of activities that could be included in this grant program. And since we do have a Vision Zero action plan, and a lot of you have local road safety plans, you know, there should be pretty broad eligibility to actually submit applications and compete to get funding for these. So right now we're shooting for trying to get together some ideas by next fall in September, including supplemental planning things and projects for a joint application that we could submit. So just a few things to keep in mind. There is a 20% minimum match required for the grant. The funding needs to be expended within 5 years after obligation. You know, we'd really be looking at existing or near-term projects that could be environmentally cleared and designed and implemented quickly. And then, you know, SETA could possibly administer the grant and help out with that as well. So right now on the timing, we're just gathering ideas right now. So thank you to you that have talked to us already. But if you do have some ideas, please reach out to Dana, David, or myself. We can get that conversation started. And then we're planning on having a conversation at the Vision Zero Advisory Committee in February, and then at the TAC meeting next March to kind of, you know, talk about the ideas we have and start planning for that fall submission. So that's where we're at right now, just kind of brainstorming and gathering ideas. But I'd be happy to provide any additional information or answer any questions. And David and Dana, please jump in too if you have any comments or thoughts.
Thanks, Chris.
Yep, I'm hoping that you heard me through that. So
That was much better. Yes, thanks much, Chris.
okay, great.
Okay, any comments or questions for Chris or for Dana? Eris?
I just wanted to put out, I know that obviously this is not a grant thing that we could apply for, But if there are any projects that folks are looking at doing that might either have an educational component or something that can relate to safe schools, safe routes to school stuff, that we would be very interested in being a sub and partnering on that.
Okay. Excuse me. I think then we can move on. Now we can move on to item number 8, roundtable updates. And I can't remember, Dana, how we did the roundtable. Do we just want to select folks and?
Yeah, we could just call on jurisdictions.
Yeah.
An update.
Well, why don't we start with Ben with the city of Healdsburg?
So we have a walking and bike path that we're extending from the end of Foss Creek Trail on Front Street along the frontage of Railroad Park. We just got the RFP out for the design of that. So it'll run from the railroad tracks at the south end of the Foss Creek path to the bridge, the Healdsburg Avenue Bridge. And regarding the e-bike share, we just got that up and running. So Bird got their bikes out. The agreement is executed, and we're off to we had a soft opening on that. So we've got about 50 bikes on the ground. So that's about it.
Okay, thanks, Ben. Let's move on to Ken with Petaluma.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair Schmitz. The most exciting news is North McDowell is finally going to go into construction. So that's starting up here in December. It'll be going on likely 9 months or so. And we're super excited to see that project move forward. And then we've had a number of public meetings. The one that's been most, I think, most significant to this group is the 5th Street Bike Boulevard. So going from Mountain View to A Street downtown on the Bike Boulevard there, we've got good public comment and input on that. So that is moving forward. And I see its installation the early part of this next year. We have a number of pavement projects on the connector roadways that are linking schools and parks, and Maria Drive, Casa Grande, Howard Street, all those are marching forward. And then we've got the Sonoma or the South Petaluma Boulevard project that Larry had started. Well, that's it's been completed, and it's been very much favorably received. So good job, Larry. And that's all I have. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Ken. John with Sebastopol.
So the only real update that I have is we're continuing to move forward with the Bodega Avenue improvement program. It's 2 phases, so it'll be a while overall, but it's a overall update to the adding some sidewalks and curb gutter stuff where there is currently no sidewalks along Bodega Avenue. So
Okay, thanks, John. Mona with Windsor.
We don't have much more going on. Our roundabout is still under construction, but it's getting really close to being completed at Windsor Road and Windsor River Road. We've been working on our update to our bike ped master plan, and it's going really slowly, but it's kind of chugging along, but there's nothing new to report there. We are working with a consultant though, and we had a connecting Central Windsor study that looked at an overpass and also widening under the overpass, a bike path over the freeway, but also a second component was to widen the pathway under the freeway. And we're actually working with Caltrans right now. So we're in a DEAR process, which is a process to try to get the review through Caltrans without going through a full review. So that's kind of moving along, which is kind of nice. So that would be to kind of create a class 1 trail, almost a 2-way bike trail along Old Redwood Highway underneath the freeway in the center of Windsor. So other than that, there's nothing else new coming along right now. Oh, we still have Bert, by the way. We did have problems with a service provider. So we went, they contract out to a local provider to collect the bikes, charge the bikes, put the, not bikes, the scooters. We have scooters, put the scooters back on the street. And I guess they didn't want to do it any longer. So I think we're using someone in Santa Rosa to service it until we find a more permanent one. But I have not heard if we're, so far we're still using Bird and they're still servicing us, even though I know I had heard that they were not doing very well. So that's it.
Mona, could I ask you a question about that? So, like as of today, I mean, have you seen the scooters around?
I did, like, I think a week ago. I mean, I don't see them zipping around, but I have seen them around. But I mean, I haven't heard anything else from anybody at the town as if they were gonna terminate and it was supposed to be a pilot program, and seasonal. So I'm not sure if it's also ending because it's the end of we're hitting winter. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So, Suzanne, this is Nancy, and actually I could, if the chair, through the chair, it's a good transition for me to do a real quick update. So they're out of Santa Rosa. The mayor contacted Jason Monday and said, "Where's the scooters?" Because he wanted to use one. And Jason texted me, and what happened was it's a kind of similar issue that Mona talked about. Their fleet manager, they had to let him go, and so I guess they are onboarding a new fleet manager. But and this all happened. They, over the last couple of days, I guess maybe over the weekend, they just started removing all the scooters. So there's not a scooter to be found in Santa Rosa, and I'm like, okay, so that was kind of weird. We didn't even know that was happening. So I don't know. They're supposedly going to be redeploying them soon, but it's likely that they're not going to do it before the Thanksgiving week. So we're just kind of in a holding pattern. I'm going to the council on the 6th of December to do my 6-month update of our pilot to our council, just under staff briefing. So I asked Robert, who's my contact at Bird, to be able to be online with the meeting in case there's any questions from the council, because they may ask about just their solvency as well. Because I know Era sent out an email about them being on the verge of bankruptcy, but he's going to give me a briefing on Monday before the council meeting, the guy from Bird, on some of the details of their financial situation. So that's it on the Bird. And just real quick, we're having our design review board is going to be having a listen to on the bike pit overcrossing the 1st of December. So that's kind of exciting. I think we're getting close to buttoning up all the design questions, and so that is coming up in a couple of weeks. And You know, we're just working on our Vision Zero, our Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Board. They created an ad hoc committee to talk about really developing an implementation plan for the city. So we had a draft that we presented to our board last Thursday, and we've got another meeting scheduled before in December, and they will probably pick up the conversation in January to, you know, I would say the next quarter of Q1 of the calendar year, we'll probably have a pretty solid implementation strategy for our Vision Zero. So that's real encouraging. And thank heavens, I finally got my job announcement published, and it's out in the streets as of Monday. So hopefully we'll get some good response on that. And the active transportation planner position closes on the 30th of this month. So a lot to try to sort through in a very short time, but we'll see how it all unfolds. So that's it for me.
Okay, thanks, Nancy. Wendy from Sonoma.
Hi, I have an update. As of this morning, the Friar Creek Bridge is open on the Class 1 path over the Friar Creek. So that's like monumental. So I'm really excited. I can't wait to officially go over it on my bike. That's it.
All right. Congratulations. Thank you. Moving on to Edie with Roner Park.
Not too much. We did open bids on our Roner Park Expressway Ped Refuge plus 12 crossings, mid-block crossing type of thing, enhancements. We're gonna have to, while we would love to start right away, we're gonna have to suspend because of supply chain issues. RFBs, the batteries specifically, it's 4 to 5 months lead time on them. So we'll just do this after the turn of the year. That's how it goes. If anyone is looking for RFBs, especially solar powered ones that need batteries, then build some time in. But that's pretty much it for us.
Okay, thanks, Edie. And JP from Katati.
Thanks, Stephen. I guess the big update from Katati is we just recently passed our VUNERF ordinance. For those who are unfamiliar, VUNERF is a Dutch word, which means living street or street for living. And so it's a requirement now of all of our multifamily projects or large development projects. And it incorporates spaces where that's shared with vehicles and pedestrians, and includes features, traffic calming features, kind of pedestrian facilities and features that make you want to be in that space. And it uses slow speeds and kind of a serpentine route through it. Anyway, so that's kind of exciting. That's what's happening here. And I don't know if it's really related, but it probably is also we're just put out an RFP for updating our Santero Way specific plan. This is the area right around the smart train station. So it will obviously fall under, I think MTC's TOC policy will have an effect on that. And anyway, that's two of the big sort of ped and bike related things happening in Katati. That's it.
Okay, thanks, JP. The only one I don't have thus far is Cloverdale. I don't think we have got our rep from Cloverdale on the call today. So
Petaluma, give an update?
Petaluma did through Ken, yeah.
Yes, okay, sorry.
And for the county, what we've got coming up is updating our road shoulder sweeping list. that we first put together about 2 or 3 years ago. And I'll be working with the committee over the next month to update that list of roads that get regular ongoing shoulder sweeping by the county of Sonoma. And then I mentioned earlier that Regional Parks is looking at bollards. No decisions have been made yet, but they've gone around and they're starting to stripe and repaint several bollards throughout the county. That's all I have for the county. And should we move into the shared micromobility updates now, Dana?
Yeah, we usually hear an update in our roundtables from on the Safe Routes to School program, and I'll just point out that Tina had to leave, but she did leave an update in the chat. And I don't know if Eris wanted to add anything on to that, but
Yeah, this is kind of a quiet time of year for us. Yeah, we did have that excellent event in November. We're just kind of doing our planning ahead for the upcoming year. Although one thing I'm hoping to do sometime between now and the end of the year is to do a bike light giveaway, probably in Roseland. I don't have enough lights to do a huge all over the county thing, but as it's now, you know, it's sometimes dark when I leave in the morning, and it's always dark now when I ride home from work. And so getting more lights out on bikes so that folks are safe out there.
And then through the chair, we could offer for SMART to give an update if they have anything. Actually, they may have just dropped off. Actually, sorry about that. I think Emily just dropped off, but
well, we've got item number 9 as well for people to comment or make additional announcements. Why don't we go into 8.2?
All right, so shared micromobility updates. Since we already heard some updates from Windsor and Santa Rosa and Healdsburg on their programs with BIRD, I'll just give an update on the regional program. I think you've all heard that the provider we were working with, Bolt Mobility, went out of business. And so we've been talking with our working group on about next steps. We did have a meeting with them at the end of October and talked about details in how to reissue a request for proposals and modify it to kind of invite more creative solutions and be a little less prescriptive given the market right now. So we are working on that with the Transportation Authority of Marin and expect to have a revised RFP out in January.
Okay, thanks. And bike and pedestrian counters. Is that you, Chris?
Sure, yeah, I can give just a brief update. We don't really have anything exciting to tell everyone about. Just a reminder that we do have bicycle and pedestrian equipment available to check out. So most of it's actually deployed right now, but if you do have a need, let us know and we can go ahead and get it scheduled for you.
Thanks, Chris. If I could also just chime in that there was some discussion at the last meeting, I believe some jurisdictions were looking at installing permanent counters, and if anybody wants to share any information about that during this item, that would be great as well. I see Emily did get back online, and maybe she'd like to share something about the counters that SMART has installed on their pathways. or others can chime in as well.
Hi.
I think she's having difficulty with her.
Hi, can you hear me?
You're going in and out, Emily. Yeah, we're having trouble hearing you, Emily.
She is on mute.
Oh, unmute yourself, Emily. Try again. Well, I think that we should move on to just other business and announcements. Comments from anyone? And I saw Tor. Yeah, you had something in the chat. Go ahead, Tor.
Oh, the chat question was just whether there'd been any data so far on scooter use in small towns, suggesting that they're still worth pursuing. And then I guess the other question about the bike counters is, it'd be curious because there are conversations that go, well, are those green lanes being used on 116? Or, and then it's just who saw what, and who, it'd be interesting to put a counter on different parts around town as we go forward. I don't know how much they cost, but it sounds interesting. Where do actually the counters come from? I didn't quite understand all that.
Mr. Chair, I can provide just
Oh, yeah,
a really
Chris,
brief
please.
Introduction. So yeah, thanks for that. So there are a few different ways to go about installing counters. There could be permanent locations where it's generally an infrared counter that'll count pedestrians or bicyclists passing by, but there are also inductive loops that count just bicyclists passing by. So those can be installed permanently at certain locations. So I believe Smart has been able to install a few of those on their pathway, but we also have a number of portable counters that can be installed around the county. And those are the same types of setup. Generally, we have infrared counters that, again, pass moving bodies moving past the counter in both directions. And then we also have tube counters that count bicyclists riding over the tubes. So those generally work a little better on class 1 pathways where there's better separation from the roadway. But there's some potential to look at those green pathway lanes as well. So SCTA has the equipment, and the local jurisdictions can check out the equipment to do local counts. So that's basically how the program works. And yeah, happy to provide more information and provide some examples of data if you're interested in that.
Chris, real quick, can you point one of those across a roadway and discern cars and bikes and pedestrians from one another? Or would it count cars the same? Because I've got some areas that I think there's a need, and it'd be great to be able to establish it, but I don't want to just count the cars. I want to be able to focus on the pedestrians and the bikes that are using that route.
Yeah, unfortunately, it actually picks up the cars because of the sun shining off the windshield or the metal of the car. But you can, in certain locations, we've actually put the infrared counters pointing away from the road, counting people on the sidewalk, and then put tube counters out into the bike lane. And so that's one way to get the people walking on the sidewalk and then getting just the bikes. The tubes, you can usually make them short enough that they won't count a car, or if a car does drive over them, they're calibrated to kind of remove those, heavier vehicles. So there's some ways to try and get some of that information out. So if you have a specific location, let me know, and
yeah,
I'll look at Google Earth and see.
Thanks.
Okay. I see Emily's hand raised. Now you want to try again, Emily?
Yes. Can you hear me this time?
Sounds good. Thanks.
Okay, great. All right. Sorry about that. I'm just transitioning to another meeting. Yeah, I'm happy to talk about the bike ped counters. And if you'd like, I can talk more extensively in the future and bring some pictures and things. But basically we installed 10 counters along the smart multi-use pathway, 5 in Sonoma County and 5 in Marin. And they're from Eco Counter. They're called the urban multi-pole, something like that. And they do differentiate between bikes and peds. And they come with an online software where you can monitor them on a daily basis and run reports. It's pretty great. The results have been pretty amazing. In the months that we sampled prior to taking it to the board, so it was something like early September to early October, I think we had counted 67,000 people passing the counters. Now, they could have passed one counter more than once, so it's not an exact science, but it was still really encouraging numbers, and it's going to be interesting to see over time what that looks like as the weather fluctuates and as additional segments of the pathway are open for better connectivity. So I can answer any questions you'd like on that.
Hey, Emily, it's Nancy. Hey, so do you have that data available in Sonoma County? Where did you do any in Santa Rosa?
Yes, we do. We have one at 6th Street in Santa Rosa, and yes, I can get you the data. Just let me know what type of data and what level you would like.
Okay, well, we can talk offline. So you had one location in Santa Rosa at 6th Street, right?
Yeah, and there's another one too in southern Santa Rosa, and I can't remember exactly where. But if you send me an email and I can send you all the information.
Sounds good. Thanks.
The thing that really impressed me when Emily gave a presentation to the smart board about the counters was that the average month, daily number of bikes and peds passing those counters was pretty close to or possibly above the daily train ridership. So as many people are being served by the pathway as are by the train.
Yeah, that was really really fascinating numbers, and it was, I think, a really good reminder to our board about how important the pathway is. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for that update, Emily. Are there any other business comments or announcements? Dana.
I just have an administrative item I'd like to announce that is starting in March. We will be going back to in-person meetings as the governor has removed the emergency order for the Brown Act meetings. So we'll be providing information about that in the January agenda, just to prepare everyone for that and all the rules around it.
This Nancy, is that all effective in March for all the SCTA board meetings and TAC, and is that when it'll kick in March? Yeah. Okay.
Dana, real quick, are they going to be hybrid meetings, or will we all need to be there in person? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, so I believe that we are going to be able to allow the public to join via Zoom or Teams or remotely. There are some regulations around how voting members can join, and so we'll be putting out all that information in the January agenda there's some rules around noticing and certain restrictions around how many how frequently a member can join remotely.
Okay, yeah.
Mona.
Oh, I just have a really quick, oh, did I unmute? I just talked to John, who kind of was in charge of our bird program. And he felt that it was working for Windsor, but he said we actually had 3 fleet managers quit. So it must not be working for the fleet managers that well. And that there must be some kind of a breaking even point. And we only had 50 or 60 scooters in play. And he thinks it's possible that you have to have about 100 or more to make it viable for the fleet managers. But he's not really sure about that, but I just want to let you know. So, you know, Santa Rosa probably has more in their agreement, and we didn't have that many in our agreement for our pilot program. So just thought I'd let you know.
So Mona, are the scooters then in the streets in Windsor, or are they out?
Well, they were. I mean, I think I saw some a few weeks ago, but John did say it's seasonal, and he thinks he hasn't even heard from them, so he doesn't even know. But it was supposed to be seasonal, so I'm thinking they're not supposed to be operating now because it's winter.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I know our situation. Right. So that's why I wondered if there are any scooters active in Windsor, and it doesn't sound like there are, but that's interesting. Okay, that's all right.
Okay.
Okay, any other business comments or announcements? Final call.
It's
All
been
right,
great.
our
It's been great, all you guys.
Congratulations, Nancy.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's been great. It's been a great ride. So you guys will carry it on.
Okay, our next meeting is January 24th. So happy Thanksgiving, happy holidays, everybody.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Well.